More news. The Nuggets continue to reshape their roster, and by golly, they got themselves a backup center. The Nuggets trade for Jonas Valanciunas. The Nuggets trade away Dario Saric, so I don't have to listen to Swipe and complain about it anymore. They hired JJ Barea. All the things are happening. It's Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day, being with us Monday through Friday, being an everydayer, being a true Nuggets sicko. And we're glad to have you along for the ride. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. My name's Matt Moore. I write a site called the Denver Dig, where I'm still trying to figure out where to start with the moves for the Denver Nuggets. I'll have more content up there later today. You can check it out at thedenverdig.com. You can catch instant reaction of everything at Mile High Sports with Ryan Blackburn, who has been burning the midnight oil, who has been working his tail off, writing about every single move. And he joins me here from Mile High Sports. You can catch him on Twitter at NBA Blackburn. On today's show, we'll talk about the Nuggets trading for Jonas Valanciunas. We'll talk about them adding JJ Barea. We'll talk about what moves are left with them with Ryan, who understands the cap as well as anybody in the Nuggets sphere and understands the need for more rotation moves and how to put this all together. Lots more to get to today. This is an emergency pod. Swipe will have a show for you later talking about moves. And then if something else happens, we'll do another one that is like every time they do something big, we'll make an emergency move. We're probably running out of those, which we'll get to in a little bit, but still lots to talk about today. And we still got a lot to break down from the Cam Johnson trade as well. All right. By the way, Swipa says, y'all see how they didn't invite me on the show. Crazy. What happened to the game I love? They damed me. I am going to take a screenshot of him saying I'm out and about, unfortunately, and post that.
They waved and stretched Swipa. Oh no. We still owe Swipa $22 million.
The Nuggets trade Jonas Valanciunas to the Nuggets trade Dario Saric to the Sacramento Kings for Jonas Valanciunas. No picks involved. It's a 1-for-1 swap using the trade exception that they picked up from the Michael Porter Jr. deal in order to facilitate the rest of that trade. So they did use that trade here. There's so much I like about this move from a basketball standpoint. What I will say off the top is I love the sequencing here to be like, hey, we turned what have we talked about? I said they need to turn MPJ into multiple contracts, and they did it, but they did it in separate transactions. They used MPJ into Cam Johnson and the TPE and Dario into Jonas Valanciunas. Just moving Dario is enough of a win. And it sucks to me that this ended this way for Dario Saric. I just want to stress this. The Nuggets players who you would think understand basketball pretty well, absolutely were convinced that this was going to be a great move for them, that he was going to be a great signing. Yeah. And it just didn't work out. But getting off of a player that was unplayable for the regular season to add a viable veteran backup big is huge. And Pelicans fans and Kings fans are understandably going to be like, just you wait. And we will talk about that as well. But Ryan, just the sequencing of turning MPJ into starter wing, backup center, that inherently is a good move.
Pelicans fans and Kings fans have not had to experience Denver's backup center situation over the course of these last couple of years. It has been pretty difficult for Denver to deal with. They have had to, like, the fact that DeAndre Jordan was the best backup center on the roster was, I think, a pretty large detriment to where Denver's at. And now I kind of like the way that you framed it in terms of the separate moves. I kind of went the opposite direction, and I just combined this into a 3-team trade where Denver sends Michael Porter and a 2032 first to the Nets. They also send Dario Saric to the Kings, and then they get back Jonas Valanciunas and Cam Johnson. That to me feels like a pretty straight up, hey, you're trading Michael Porter, you're getting some more flexibility, and the cost of that is a first round pick, and you're getting 2 veterans two very capable players in return, as well as the flexibility to continue adding if they need to. So I know that people are going, like, especially some fans, they'll have some questions on how viable Jonas Valanciunas is. What's he going to do? How's he going to help? He's going to be helpful. Is he going to play next to Nikola Jokic? No. Is he going to solidify the backup center minutes behind Nikola Jokic? Yes. I feel very good about that, especially in the regular season. We'll talk about what happens when the playoffs come around, but Denver's probably going to go small ball anyway at that point. So I do really like this move for Denver. I think this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I think, as always, this to me is probably the ultimate test here of exactly where do you have to get to on a backup with the options that you have with your roster construction. Where can you get to in order for it to be viable as a backup center option for you not to bleed eternally?
Yeah.
Like, that to me is like, this is a very good, I think, question mark as far as like how to determine that. I've liked JV a long time. I was so critical of him in Toronto because Toronto fans did what Toronto fans do and just like thought he was, and every fan, they just like thought he was like amazing. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, he's got a long way to go in terms of what he can actually do. And he started putting together that last season before they traded him, the year they won the title, when they traded him for Marcus Paul. I was like, Valanciunas has been really good. And he was honestly really good. He was legitimately really good for the Memphis Grizzlies. Then he got traded to the Pelicans for Steven Adams, and that's where things really, I think, started to go sideways. I do look at these things contextually. I think Jonas is probably a helpful player on good teams and probably not a helpful player on bad teams. And there are certain players that just like don't contribute to those kind of things. DeAndre Jordan last year was minus 3.3 in his minutes. That's, again, I got to give DJ a lot of credit for pulling his plus minus to a minus 3.3.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's
100%.
doable. And if their rotation had been deeper in the Jokic staggered minutes, they probably would have been in a lot better position. Right. So what JV has to do here is beat minus 3.3. That's what he has to be able to put in to be able to be like a viable option. With the Sacramento Kings last year, Jonas was a plus 2.6.
Oh.
541 minutes, didn't play a ton, right? So some caveat on that. With the New Orleans Pelicans last year, Jonas Valanciunas was looking. I'm pretty sure that he was a greater negative in that regard. But yeah, what do you think about the fit basketball wise with the second unit, Ryan?
I think it's great. Honestly, there are certainly questions about how this is going to go. But just looking at the numbers overall, he still maintained a 60 true shooting. It's not perfect. It was a little bit down from previous years, but he's starting to attempt some threes. He didn't do it as much in this last year, but I do think that he still has a little bit of spacing there. It's not entirely at the rim. It's not entirely behind the three-point line. He's a little bit more versatile. He's somebody that can do a variety of different things. Obviously, he didn't shoot that well, so that's one of the reasons why it didn't happen. But that doesn't mean that he can't shoot better in the future. What I will say is that just from a structure standpoint, one of the reasons why I was considering, hey, maybe Denver should go get Luke Cornett or somebody like that. Al Horford, we were talking about last night. Al Horford, I think, would have been a better option for Denver than Jonas Valanciunas. But if he wasn't available, then this is about as good as you could possibly get, in part because you have somebody that can play like Jokic, just in terms of the physical interior, exterior style. You want him to play center. You're going to play big. He's going to gobble up rebounds. He's going to take a lot of attention, and he allows guys to play off of him in such important ways. So his role in Denver is going to be pretty simple. Like, you're going to grab offensive rebounds. You're going to grab defensive rebounds. You're going to set a lot of screens. You're going to roll. You're going to pop occasionally. You're going to run some DHOs, and you're just going to try to connect things, allowing guys like Deron Holmes, Zeke Naji, Peyton Watson to have it a little bit easier underneath.
Rebounding alone. They got killed on the boards last year. And a lot of it's just like DJ just couldn't get there. And like, that's not DJ's fault. Again, DJ did his job, and DJ had a lot of good games. But like, Valanciunas is just going to be such a better rebounder. Them getting back, I think, and like Adelman's talked a little bit about slowing the pace, right? About like, let's bring it down a bit. I think that's really smart with this team, and JV plays perfectly into that. I think that's absolutely terrific. Somebody mentioned the 2-man game with Bruce Brown and JV. You'll be able to run DHOs for days with Bruce Brown and Jonas and Cam and Jamal. Like, also, this is such an easier fit for Jamal. Oh my God, this is the best center that he's gotten to play backup point guard with it since Mace. Like,
yeah.
And honestly, this is more because Jamal spent so much time with Joker. It's easier just to be like, hey, run pick and pop. JV will take an 8-footer. He'll take an 8-foot pull-up jumper when they drop. Easy. The defense is going to be a huge question mark and a huge issue. Like, that's just it's going to be a problem. I'm just warning you now, because like JV is a drop big. He is a drop big. You can't switch with them. You can't blitz with them. You're going to be playing drop. Fine in the regular season.
Yeah.
This is just a stabilizing force. Right now, we wanted them to have a better rotation, right? The whole thing was like, you got to have more guys. They turned MPJ into these two and added Bruce Brown. I think it's just like that's such a phenomenal job. Up next.
Again, they may not be done. Like, there are some things that they can still do to try to add to maybe the fringes. I'm not expecting major things, but we might see a couple of other names pop up.
Let's talk about what else they can do and what else we should expect to see here coming up. And then we'll talk about JJ Barea and what he can bring to the coaching side, as he is the first, I believe, assistant coach hired under David Adelman. We'll talk about that coming up on Locked On Nuggets. You ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like us having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. How is having everything in one app going to change things for you? It's so simple to keep an eye on your big picture, because like I have this problem where we have several accounts at different institutions, whether it's credit card or savings account or kids college fund, and being able to see all of it on one dashboard is so helpful for me to get an idea of the big picture. And it helps you to realize how fast stuff adds up so you can adjust accordingly. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making this part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us, joining us here on an emergency episode as the Nuggets trade for Jonas Valanciunas and they add JJ Barea. So,
by the way, no picks in this deal. This is like Denver had to come up with ways to get very creative in terms of how they could add these guys. It's really great accounting. It's really great stuff by Ben Tenzer, by John Wallace. I can't say enough about these 2 days that they have done.
Okay, so they still have. Give me the rundown of what they have available, where they are at, and where they're at financially.
Yeah, so Denver still has 13 players on their roster. The two important numbers to monitor are the luxury tax first apron for Denver. They have it's $195.9 million that they need to stay under. But honestly, like there's conflicting reports as to whether they have triggered the first apron or not anyway. So if they have, that's not as much of a factor anymore. It's not something that they were able, like, that's actually a problem. One of the things that we were very confused about was that Denver created this traded player exception. I did not think that they could use it and stay under and go over the first apron, excuse me. But they can because it's in the same year. It's in the same cap year. So they have triggered the first apron, but they are able to go over because it's created in the same calendar year, in the same cap year as all of this. So it's kind of interesting the way that they have done this. It's not something any of us really expected to have to cover and figure out, but the Nuggets are making some great financial moves in real time. They have two open roster spots that they have to figure out. They have the taxpayer mid-level exception. They have the biannual exception that they can use. Both actually, I'm not sure if they have access to the biannual if they want to go over the first apron, but like they certainly have the taxpayer mid-level. They have the minimums that we've talked about. I kind of expect them to use one and or both of those. We'll find out what they do in the coming days.
What do you want them to do with it? If they add another player, what's the last piece of the puzzle?
So it's a great question because I think a lot of people are concerned about point guard still. They're concerned about point guard being Bruce Brown. And like, it's not like, because he has the skills, I think, to fill in for that spot. But even the Nuggets during the championship run were mostly playing Bones Highland in the first half of that year. Then they tried Reggie Jackson in the second half of that year. Didn't really work. So they kind of went to Bruce as the point guard by default off the bench for last resort. But they have Jalen Pickett now as an option. So I think Smith says it here. Trey Mann's not a bad name. If you're looking for more scoring off the bench, if you're looking for a little bit more juice, that's a good option. I don't think they need that much more in between those guys. Like they got the center. I think you're probably looking for a point guard, and then you're mostly good.
Stat Squatch, Jake Coyne, the GOAT, to clear up some confusion I'm seeing on Denver's moves. If they structure the Val and Cam trades into one, they'll avoid hard capping themselves the first apron for now. I think you said that, right?
Yep.
They're legally separate, but Denver would hard cap themselves the first apron. So that's what you were talking about with they need to pull this deal into one big trade in order to maximize flexibility if the Nets will accommodate.
They may have to incentivize one or both of those teams to turn it into a 3-team trade. I don't think that they would. I think this is just pretty simple of what they could do, but we've seen teams kind of balk at stuff like that before. Rather than get pulled into multi-team deals, they need to kind of be incentivized. But if they are able to do this with just the assets that have been reported, what a crazy deal to turn Michael Porter, Dario Saric, and a first-round pick into Cam Johnson and Jonas Valanciunas. I really do think that has opened some things up massively for them.
Folks in the comments have some suggestions, and I think they're worth talking about here. So I would ask you, do you want Trey Mann? I'm going to give you these binaries, and you answer which one you want, okay? Trey Mann or Chris Paul?
I mean, if it's a choice, Chris Paul. Chris Paul would be really helpful.
All right. Chris Paul or Dante Exum?
Chris Paul.
Trey Mann or Dante Exum?
Oh, man. Dante Exum?
Okay.
I actually kind of like Dante as a theoretical. I think that makes sense because he can play on and off the ball. He's got some more to give.
Okay. Larry Nance or I guess you don't need Larry Nance anymore since they got Valanciunas.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's good for Denver. Because you can still play Deron Holmes at a small ball 5 occasionally, Zeke Naji small ball 5 occasionally, Aaron Gordon, same thing. Maybe they bring in a 2-way contract that's also a center. That would be a great idea. Just throwing that out there would be a great idea if you had a backup center or your third center being a 2-way guy.
Okay, coming up, the Nuggets also added their coaching staff. We'll talk about JJ Barea. We'll talk a little bit more about the Cam Johnson trade. We'll get to all the other moves and wrap up here on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Underrated part of this, all these moves, is the lineup versatility, Ryan.
Yeah.
The lineup versatility here is pretty sick. Bruce Brown, Cam Johnson, Christian Brown in a backup. How about wing shooting defense along with Deron Holmes and Jonas Valanciunas? How about that one? How about if they add another point guard? How about that point guard with Cam Johnson at 2, and then you go Peyton Watson at 3, Aaron Gordon at 4 with JV at 5. Your lineup versatility here is just remarkably improved. It's not just that they added guys. They added guys where you look at how the skills intersect and you're like, oh, that makes a lot more sense now. Okay. Like Jamal, Bruce, Christian at the 3, right? With Aaron and JV. There's just all these combos you can get to now.
I think you can even get away with Julian at the 3 in a lot of those combos. That's what happens when you've got a guy who's 6'7", but also when you've got a guy in Bruce who could just be your point of attack defender. You don't have to necessarily worry about it as much. So It has been a crazy offseason.
Now,
I can't believe we're here.
I had a long conversation yesterday with a longtime fan of the show, well, who will remain nameless, who was saying how much they didn't like the Cam Johnson move because of the availability thing. Is MPJ literally did play the games. Cam Johnson literally has not played over 70.
Yeah.
What I will say here is instead of going into that, there will be time for us to talk about like realistic and tempered. Like I can give you right now a pessimistic negative view of the Nuggets that would be factually accurate and would be sound analysis.
You know, I can.
It's like you can definitely make those kind of things. And it's not even just like doomerism. Like there's legitimately a case. Like I'm totally fine with that. What I will tell you is that this is the moment to, I think, be excited. Like I'll let yourself as a fan be excited because if nothing else, everyone in that locker room would tell you that the vibe was stale last year, and it's not. And the questions that I had about like, man, I don't know, like this is a completely green front office coming into this situation. They've been tremendous. This is just an incredible asset management over the first 2 days. And like that 2032 pick is going to come up and people are going to grumble about it. And I will be there to be like, no, at the time, that was a really great move.
Yeah.
Like that's what they needed to do. And everybody in unison did not want them to waste the Nikola Jokic era. And they have not done that. They are not sitting by and just running it back, which is what we were all concerned about, which is just like I was trying to be like, look, it can work because it could have, but this plan is way better, giving yourself options while you're still running back Jokic, Christian, Jamal, and AG. You just have a new core four. And so I think all that kind of like factors in here. Oh, we should have mentioned this. Jonas Valanciunas doesn't have a player option. So it's a team option, non-guaranteed in the second year.
Yeah, non-guaranteed deal. And honestly, like that's a great get out of jail free card for Denver if it doesn't work. And like I think it will. I think they will have reasons to try to do it, but
I think this is super important. Casey Mack says, I just found it crazy the Kings took this trade for only Dario. So this is what's really great about what they did, whether it was Wallace, Tenzer, or both. The Kings needed to clear space to get Dennis Schroeder. Don't ask me why, but like that was their target, is they wanted Dennis Schroeder. Maybe they're trading Levine. They're probably trading DeMar DeRozan to Miami. Okay. But whatever they're planning,
Monk.
Yeah. So, well, this is the thing. In order to make room for Schroeder, they were going to have to trade Malik Monk to the Warriors. And that is probably not something that they want to do because they weren't going to get a good deal on it, but they were leveraged because they were like, we can't get Schroeder if we don't trade Monk. That it was a binary. By doing this, that removes that concern for them. So the Nuggets took a situation where they're like, we have limited assets. We don't have any picks, but we can save you money. And the Kings were like, we don't need this player and we need to save money for what we want to do. Let's do a deal. That's great front office work. That's better than swindling somebody because you will wind up in a situation where people are like, yeah, I don't trust you. You killed that team. I don't want to do business with you. Like when you start being that team, it's contrary to your efforts because the perception is nobody wants to be the one that the media is talking about how they got swindled again by whoever. But this was a deal where it's like, we need a player. You need to save money. Let's figure it out for what works for both of us. That's great front office work by John Wallace and Ben Tenzer.
I love it. And like to your points, it's why people would never trade with Danny Ainge after a while. They knew that they were going to get swindled. It's why people are probably not going to be trading with Sam Presti for a while. Like they're going to be avoiding that for as long as they possibly can. So really impressive stuff. They deserve a ton of credit. I don't necessarily want to bury Calvin Booth entirely because these moves weren't necessarily available to him. Cam Johnson was going for 2 first-round picks at the deadline last year, not 1. Jonas Valanciunas was going for 2 second-round picks that Calvin Booth traded away, not 0, like they had in this deal. So it wasn't necessarily like Calvin's fault entirely. We can quibble with some things, but this is just great timing from Wallace and Ben. And like, I do think that they are like, but that's what great GMing is all about. It's being ready to make the right moves at the right time and knowing your options and capitalizing on the situation. So fantastic work. And they deserve all the credit in the world.
Yeah, I think this is a shocking turnaround And I think honestly, I got to develop a graphic that's just like Ryan's mood meter, because like the difference in Ryan in 24 hours has been amazing.
I mean, can you blame me though? Let's be honest. Did you see anything like this happening? Anything?
No, because
Yeah.
they told us, they literally told us the opposite. Now I don't appreciate that.
I honestly, I don't blame them for that in the slightest personally. Like I don't because like
No, here's my thing is you need to take care of your local media. If they given Bennett a heads up and not me, fine. No problem.
I was at the draft for 8 hours. I will say that. I was at
Right?
Ball Arena for 8 hours
But
gutting that thing out. So that would have been nice.
Signaling to all of us and having us all be like, yeah, they're not going to do anything. I'm just telling you guys, as like a person close to to the organization, they're not going to do anything, because that was the best information that we had. And now that's where I wonder about the timing, because everyone, like, we're going to do what we do with players, which is like, actually his defense is very good. It's going to be, if they were just approached with this, if the Nets called yesterday and we're like, hey, so like, we'll give you Cam Johnson for MPJ in a first, right? Then that changes this, versus if they called the Nets and we're like, hey, we'd like to look at trading MPJ for Cam Johnson in a first, right? Who made the call first, I think, is very important. And I do think that I think that they genuinely did not have this on the board, and that's why I'm not like mad that they wouldn't have let us know. And who cares and if you're asking like who cares about you guys, the answer is like, you guys do, because you expect us to be in the know. So it's like,
and everybody's very excited for me to be happy, for me to be like upbeat. Like, how am I supposed to do that if I don't think anything's gonna happen? So I totally am in a better place with this Nuggets team than certainly before.
Oh, somebody mentions DeLon Wright. Let's do that game again. DeLon Wright or Trey Mann?
Trey Mann. Like,
okay.
At this point, I think it's fair to go for the ceiling play.
Okay. So, wow, Trey Mann is described as a ceiling play.
He's younger than 25, therefore he is bright and cheery.
That's why I was surprised you said Chris Paul.
Well, look, I have standards. Like Chris Paul for Denver, I think would be awesome, and also just the way that they are playing. I do think that Chris Paul, he would give them a lot in terms of being able to just run traditional pick and roll with the second unit. You don't have to burn out Murray trying to run pick and roll with the second unit all the time, because that's a worry that I have with the current setup. So I do think that they need another ball handler of sorts. So whoever that is, we'll see.
Okay. Let's talk about JJ Barea. JJ Barea, Mavericks legend, backup point guard for the 2011 championship team and longtime Dallas Maverick. He was a coach overseas. It was, he's been coaching overseas.
Puerto Rico, head coach in Puerto Rico.
I didn't want to get which island it was wrong. I didn't want to insult that. That was my bad. I need to be clear on that. So JJ is like phenomenal. JJ is terrific. I've talked to people that have worked with him in the past from a coaching standpoint, and he's just so respected. And he was a guy that really understood how to play the game. Like he was a Jokic player through and through.
Yeah.
He was the type of player that he was playing Jokic style basketball before it was even pretty much allowed in the NBA. From the perspective of like bringing that international kind of approach, such a great passer, but also just like adding, I think this kind of a name that's a really good get. Like this is a very quality hire, I think, to adding to David Adelman's staff as he starts to build it out.
Oh crap! Oh no!
Ryan lost.
Sandro Mamukelashvili, 2 years, $5.5 million to Toronto. Yeah. Let me not waylay this segment, but like the Mamu dream is officially dead for Denver, and it was when they got JV, for what it's worth. But like, I do think that Barea will be great. He comes well regarded from like he was with the Mavericks after retiring. He went into their player development staff for a little bit. Then he had got some head coaching experience overseas. He also, I believe, has some experience in Minnesota under Rick Adelman. So I wonder if that's where the actual connection was made to David Adelman. That would not surprise me. The other hire that they made is Rodney Billups, by the way, who has been around the organization for a while as an area scout
Sat behind us for like 20 games.
Yeah,
or like
I have
games.
great convos with Rodney on occasion. So he's a really good guy, also a pretty bright mind. I do think that he's somebody that everybody respects. I got a word from somebody that was working with the Portland Trailblazers while he was there. They were initially kind of thrown off by Chauncey Billups hiring his younger brother to be on the staff, but then he won everybody over with the hard work and the attitude that he brought to that. So I do think that he's going to be a good hire as well. Just lots of great moves that the Nuggets are making.
Look at you, Mr. Positivity.
I'm so tired. I need to go take a nap now.
You do that and you know what's going to happen.
I know. They're going to trade for Ayo Dosunmu.
and then I have to wake you up and tell you to go do pickaxe. That's what happens. I'll have to wake up and tell you to do.
Not
the
time.
Raptors signing Mama doesn't make any. They have Pirtle.
Yes, it does. They get another center. Although Masai's gone, so
they have Pirtle, Colin Murray-Boyles, and Mogba, who's actually pretty good.
But so Mamu would be their pick and pop option. They allow those guys to play the 4 instead. And I kind of like that. Like Colin Murray-Boyles is more like Draymond and more of like the 6'6" build as opposed to somebody who is an actual true center. And kind of the same thing for Mobo. Like that's a 6'7", 6'8" guy who plays more like Kenneth Faried. And you don't want those guys burning out at center the entire time.
Okay. Grace has just tweeted this, and she said, we might not have the minutes he's seeking because of Duran, but Denver should try to get Boucher. They need another forward. Would you rather have a backup point guard or another 4? I think my thing is you probably do need there's a risk here. If Holmes is so good, you don't need him, then you're wasting an asset. But if Holmes is a second-year player who has not, he's a rookie player coming off an Achilles.
Here's my thinking. Denver's strongest position is power forward right now. Aaron Gordon is a 4. Cam Johnson can slide to the 4. Peyton Watson can slide to the 4. They can. That's something that they can do, especially in second units. Zeke Naji, hey, he's a power forward. He's been telling us that the entire time, so we'll see what he's got.
Yeah, I get Cam 6'8". I've just never thought of Cam as a power forward.
He started at the 4 for Phoenix back in the day.
Yeah, I get it.
It's not like it's super viable all the time. But again, if it's mostly just like backup units where guys are it's not hard work, in my opinion, especially with second units most of the time for a lot of these cases.
Rusty West. I wonder why he's named that. Can you please respect Russell Westbrook? 1, I don't mind if they retain Russ. 2, Ryan made this point on Twitter, and he's right that Russ makes less sense now with the addition of Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah, all the issues that were facing Dario Saric when he came to Denver, it wasn't just that Dario Saric was really bad. He was, but he also was kind of had the rug pulled out from under him a little bit with how fast the Nuggets were trying to play on a consistent basis, and he was used to playing a different style at a different speed. So, one of the reasons why Dario was so good for Golden State was because he had Chris Paul, who slowed it down, who was just playing very methodical basketball. So I do think that those kinds of fits matter. And Denver clearly traded for Jonas Valanciunas with the intention of playing him and having him be good. So you want to put yourself into a situation where that can happen. Jalen Pickett, honestly, probably fine in those situations. What?
I just don't think you can't do that for backup center. That's not how you do it. You get the best talent. You get the best talent you can, and you figure out how to make it work with the bench. You don't mold a roster around the bench, around your backup center on a non-guaranteed deal. Can't do that.
Even if it's just Denver's style in general, the way that they've tried.
Yeah, I just don't think that Russ has to. I think Russ plays one way, but Russ can play that way in a lot of different styles. It's not going to be. You can say it's that's not maximizing him. Well, Russ is hard to maximize.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay, it's going to do it. We'll be back with more. Swipe will give you his thoughts on the moves later today. Ryan Swipe and I'll be back tomorrow. We'll do a show and talk about whatever else is going on. We'll get some more reactions around the league. We'll start diving more into Cam Johnson stuff. I'm doing some film this afternoon. Hope you guys have yourselves a great Tuesday. Enjoy all the madness. We'll talk to you guys again next time on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us, especially because DNVR was on.